Today, we're pulling back the curtain on some of the most shocking historical cover-ups. These aren't just conspiracy theories. These are stories with compelling evidence that suggest we've been told a very different tale from what actually happened. Let us start with a mystery that has puzzled historians for centuries. The Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD, the official story, written by historians like Tacitus, paints Emperor Nero as a depraved tyrant who fiddled while Rome burned. He was blamed for starting the fire to clear land for his lavish palace. The Domus Aurea, and then scapegoated the early Christians to deflect public anger. But what if Nero was the one being framed? Modern historians and archaeologists suggest the fire likely started accidentally in the crowded wooden stalls of the Circus Maximus. The city was a tinderbox. Furthermore, Nero was actually 35 miles away in his villa at Antium when the fire broke out. He rushed back to Rome, opened his private gardens to the homeless, and organized relief efforts. So why the bad rap? It's believed that later political rivals, particularly the senatorial class who despised Nero for his populist appeal, launched a smear campaign after his death. They needed a villain to justify their own rise to power, and the eccentric, art-loving Nero was the perfect target. The story of him fiddling while Rome burned was a powerful piece of propaganda, a cover-up designed to assassinate his character and erase his actual response to the crisis. Now, let's jump forward to the 20th century, to an event that shaped modern geopolitics, the Gulf of Tonkin incident. In August 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson went on national television to announce that North Vietnamese torpedo boats had launched an unprovoked attack on 2 U.S. destroyers in the Gulf of Tonkin. This incident led to the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, which gave Johnson the authority to escalate the American military presence in Vietnam, effectively starting a full-blown war. For years, this was the accepted narrative. But decades later, declassified documents and whistleblower testimonies painted a very different picture. The first alleged attack on August 2nd did happen, but it was after the U.S. destroyer, the USS Maddox, had been conducting espionage missions in North Vietnamese waters, essentially provoking a response. The second, more crucial attack on August 4th, which was used as the primary justification for war, it almost certainly never happened. Internal communications from the time show that the ship's commanders were confused, dealing with faulty sonar readings, freak weather, and jittery nerves. They reported they were firing at phantom targets. Even President Johnson was later quoted as saying, "For all I know, our Navy was just shooting at whales out there. The evidence was shaky at best, but the administration needed a reason to go to war." So, they exaggerated the first incident and essentially invented the second. This cover-up led to a conflict that cost millions of lives and defined a generation. It was a lie that sent a nation to war. From war to science, cover-ups know no bounds. Think about some of the greatest minds in history. We often imagine them working in isolation, having a singular eureka moment. But what about the contributions that get erased from the story? Let's talk about Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison. We all know Edison as the genius who gave us the light bulb. But the War of the Currents in the late 1880s was one of the most vicious PR battles in scientific history. Edison championed direct current, or DC, while his former employee, Nikola Tesla, advocated for alternating current, or AC. AC was far more efficient and practical for transmitting electricity over long distances. But Edison had invested heavily in DC infrastructure. Fearing he would lose his empire, Edison launched a ruthless campaign to discredit AC. He publicly electrocuted stray animals, including an elephant named Topsy, to prove that AC was dangerously deadly. He lobbied to have AC used in the new electric chair, forever linking it with death in the public mind. This smear campaign was a deliberate cover-up of AC's superiority. While AC eventually won the war and now powers our entire world, Edison's propaganda was so effective that for decades, his name, not Tesla's, was synonymous with electricity. Tesla, the true visionary whose inventions laid the groundwork for modern power and wireless communication, died penniless and largely forgotten, his contributions deliberately obscured by his powerful rival. Let's move on to another story, one hidden not by governments or corporations, but by an entire society for generations. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study. In 1932, the U.S. Public Health Service began a study to observe the natural progression of untreated syphilis. The subjects were 600 impoverished African American men in Tuskegee, Alabama. 399 of them had the disease, while 201 did not. They were told they were receiving free health care from the U.S. government for bad blood. They were never told they had syphilis, and they were never treated for it. Even after 1947, when penicillin became the standard cure for syphilis, the researchers deliberately withheld the treatment from the men. They wanted to see the disease run its full, devastating course. Doctors, nurses, and government officials were all in on it. They actively prevented the men from seeking treatment elsewhere. This horrific study continued for 40 years. It only ended in 1972 when an Associated Press reporter, Jean Heller, broke the story, causing a national outcry. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a 4-decade-long cover-up, a calculated betrayal of trust that saw men suffer and die from a treatable illness, all in the name of so-called science. The legacy of this cover-up is a deep and justified mistrust of the medical establishment within many communities, a wound that has yet to fully heal. Finally, let's look at something more recent, a secret program that operated in the shadows for years, Operation Mockingbird. In the height of the Cold War, the CIA was desperate to win the hearts and minds of people both at home and abroad. So they allegedly recruited leading American journalists to become spies and spread propaganda. The program's goal was to influence public opinion by planting CIA-friendly stories in the press. Respected reporters from major news outlets were allegedly paid to publish fake news, to promote the CIA's agenda, and to discredit those who opposed it. The operation was first exposed during the Church Committee hearings in 1975, which investigated abuses by U.S. intelligences. While the full extent of Operation Mockingbird is still debated and much of it remains classified, the committee's findings confirmed that the CIA had maintained relationships with journalists and used them for intelligence purposes. This was a profound cover-up. The very institutions meant to hold power accountable, the free press, were being used as a tool of state propaganda. It forces us to ask a difficult question. How much of what we read, even today, is shaped by unseen hands? From ancient Rome to the Cold War, history is filled with these hidden narratives. These stories show that truth is often the first casualty of power, greed, and ideology. They remind us to question everything, to look beyond the official story, and to remember that the past is never truly past. It's a living, breathing thing with secrets still waiting to be uncovered. What other truths are buried, waiting for their moment to come to light? The search for answers continues. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into history's hidden corners fascinating, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories they didn't want you to know. See you next time.